Kila macho John dollar ko. Kada tegi a hes out hadit ja lego. Ako AIC the whole kodo the staff they reached out to me kodo. Hadita at kila ko kodo office git sa the khashito ela I don't know Mr. Halona that's I don't know Halanza but that in Nation so but first case was that did so Yakoda Mr. Chair Kododa at Kishon Raid office space that yesterday and John Dolan so but first case Kododa Raid staff with Navajo Land Department and Tuba City. So Eddie Huntsford about this, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels, for that. Did you want to request a leadership meeting, Honorable Daniels?
Mr. Chair, that would be nice. But could on the great what Mr. Halona could Navajo Land Department as your director and Lenny that but that's not but it's okay. The reason why I say that I not understand. So I don't know where everything's at on getting an office space for the employees at the city there. So Idiota, I just say thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. What we can do is add it under report and have Mr. Halona report on the issues, concerns, and provide us an update on what's being fixed over there, Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe at our next meeting, I'll make that request with Mr. Chair for that next meeting. But today is kind of like a short notice for Mr. Halona to get on the notice from this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Any other announcements, committee members?
Chairman.
Honorable Freeland, go ahead.
Chairman, thank you. Good morning, Shantai, colleagues, Resource and Development Committee members, all the staff, everyone on this call. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Che, for that blessing and that prayer offered this morning. And it's always good to start in a humble way each and every day. You know, every day is a new opportunity, and we always seek new ways of helping our people each and every day. But thank you, Che. This weekend, Saturday, is the Eastern Agency Council meeting on the 28th. So Eastern Agency Council, the 31 chapters of Eastern Agency Council will be having their agency council meeting via teleconference this weekend. I want to thank Shema Mispigay for sending out the third quarterly report. I'll be sharing that with the 31 chapters, the third quarterly RDC report. And my report, when I do speak, will focus on RDC activities and really emphasizing what we're doing. So that report will be very helpful as well. So I'll be reporting mainly on RDC issues to Eastern Agency Council on Saturday. So I just wanted to give you an update and say thank you again, Nana Shanta and staff for the day and what lies ahead and all the opportunities that we are going to do our best to help our people at this time. So, Eddie, Chairman, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland, for that. Committee members, any other announcements? Chairman, this is Thomas Walker. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chairman and committee members and legislative staff. August 31st, 9 a.m. scheduled is a virtual call with INDOT for Western Navajo Agency leadership, the delegates and the chapters out of the various legislative bodies at the local level. Draft long-range transportation plan INDOT for Western Navajo Agency. And then along the same lines, other agencies, so the Western Agency, August 31st, then other agencies, you will be informed and informed on the schedule and what's to take place. The focus is on long-range transportation plans. That's my announcement. Thank you.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, so is this for all the agencies? Are they, do they need to draft this long-range transportation plans? Is there a deadline? As you said, August 31st. I'm just curious, Vice Chair Walker.
Okay, Chair. So in Daching, they will present on the long-range transportation plan that they have in draft to present to agencies. Western Agency, August 31st, so that's when we get to do the virtual call on this. Other agencies, they'll be scheduled. So I would contact INDOT for more information on other agencies. So I wanted to announce that it's a draft, something in draft, long-range transportation plan. Apparently, this is something they've been wanting to do for a couple months. And that has been in
Chairman Naz? This is
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, for that. Ms. Begay?
Chairman Naz, Navajo Department of Transportation, they do an annual long-range planning that they do public hearings out there with the communities and in the agencies. And so that is probably what they're beginning their work on. And the planning department will be the staff that will be going out to each of the agencies. So they will eventually send us a notice of when those meetings will be occurring. And once they develop, they receive their public comments, then they develop their long-range plan for the year. Although it'll come through to RDC through a legislative process for RDC's approval. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Begay. I will look forward to Northern Agencies draft for the long-range transportation plans by NDOT. So thank you for that. Any other announcements, Nanda?
I do, Shania, Chairman.
I'm sorry, Sitsila. Honorable Stewart, go ahead.
Okay. Again, good morning, Shania, Chairman. Arosh Vice Chair. Arosh Shania, Kayat A, Arosh Ke. And everybody on the line, Yat A Bene. I do have a couple of announcements, Shania. First one is that our meeting with Navajo shopping centers at Red Lake last week went well. We're looking to open that grocery store again, that little mini mart again, come November of this year. So in our meetings and whatnot, when you guys drive through Navajo, please stop by the store. Help us to keep it open again for the community. And it's going to be Navajo owned. He's a veteran that's going to manage the store. And we're looking forward to that being open, the communities around there. And also within the 4 communities as well, they're looking forward to having it open. That's my first one. The second one, there was a planned and a scheduled recognition this weekend for Red Lake chapter to recognize 2 past officials, one that just retired from being in office just this past year. She was a vice president for many years. Her name is Pauline Garnez. And then the other one was a grazing official for a number of years as well. And we lost him due to illness this past year, or a couple of years ago, within the past year, sorry. And his name was Mr. Paul Milford. He was a longtime employee of the Windrock Unified School District as well, and very well respected within the community. He was a grazing official for a number of years. So that is supposed to have happened this weekend. I believe it's still going to happen as well. And that's going to be at Sunday at 2 o'clock at the chapter. So those are only two announcements I have. Committee members, again, good morning, each and every one of you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart, for that announcement. That's good. I always drive through Navajo. Now I can have a place to stop to have a snack, so that's good to hear. Honorable T. Allen Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman, good morning, Chana. RDC members. Did I hear that I'm going to be the cashier? But good morning. So I appreciate and good to hear about the development in some of the area. Two announcement, Chairman. But I don't want to be the official person to announce this, but. Donna, I did receive a text indicating that the Navajo region will be having a new BIA director. I think they'll be announcing it sometime next week, so this coming Friday. Maybe reach out to BIA and specifically when the individual will be officially taking the title. And I believe that we really... we need to sit down with BIA on it's always a hang-up the progress when there's always a change of our leadership at different locations. BIA is one of them. Navajo Nation at the hot hey that's ayat ya hunizin niki that's it at joko I can see case a coco ada it's just a matter of re-educating an individual starting from level 1 again hot natural resource and liniki but they need niche ado grazing permits that ado the gravel natural resource but that in niche ako ela hit kodo ado nahatni just kodo that's a bit etni bilo hada dit to hit lab and hat linigi Division of Natural Resource Development Committee you can deal with because natural resource in the EPA and everything else but that so area kodo banais is kando chairman ado the other announcement kodo believe this past weekend kodo memo president speaker it's always the case. I haven't even received any official response on the memo, which is I guess is the norm today. I always question myself. I mean, these formal memo that I send as an elected official. I mean, does the speaker or the president ever acknowledge them as anything or such a case, but you know that I sent a memo on August 22nd. The subject matter was the advocacy and coordination regarding NAPI NAPI. That's it. NABI. NABI, she told they apologize. Maybe that's the reason why they're not responding. NABI AP 21-2120. This is regarding the Smart Highway Initiative. Kodor, brother, the State Task Force. Chair and Kodor. We met with the Arizona Commerce Department. koko kodo broadband di ne and hot at the ne ko kodo sato beta inisto beten nisho. I believe that a lot of time, although we do our separate thing, but I try to include all the Navajo Nation leadership to participate, because I don't want people to think that I'm just advocating only a portion or my area or just Navajo, on the Arizona site. I'm trying to coordinate to see if we could have an intergovernment meeting with the Utah governor's office, the Arizona governor's office, and the New Mexico governor's office. Well, it's not my initiative. I mean, even just sending a statement or a memo. I mean, I don't know. Both of the chief of staff of the legislative branch or the executive branch, Halit Aladi Saad Liniki Kodo, as elected official to the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Is it just because the position that I'm in, or my the chairman? What's the purpose of sending out a memo or statement knowing that you're not even going to get any type of a response, especially going to the top leadership of the Navajo Nation? The Nebuchadnezzar is Bichades as cat the Jatos cat or just Halat arts when they come. Been unstop and been a Kagate and then Liniki be Bahat interconi so there's any baby Nashiko. I would all the Ecuadona and the needs and so that in such case a call quaggy that's there. Maybe RDC can take the lead on this particular initiative and see how far we can go in establishing and getting some service of a broadband cell tower, and then even FirstNet onto the Navajo Nation as quickly as possible. Even though that we do have a scheduled discussion at the end regarding FirstNet, but again, this particular issue I think is very much important, because in that based on Congress, the House site, they passed another $1 trillion package that includes some of these areas, broadband, Nindiki, called Ela Batch at the little batch at the need, Edo Liquid, Joquins and so Ede Kodo, Kodo Bahanana Seat or Lisa Chairman. Again, I always say that I want to be on record to address a lot of these things, even though it may not go anywhere or may not be acknowledged, but at least I want to, I guess, replay some of the statement that I made at all these meetings. Should I be told that nothing has been done, or you didn't say anything about it, should don't need that go. So Chairman, and I do appreciate your I guess assistant and moving forward on this particular issue. Chairman, yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Gay. Your honesty. We certainly appreciate the issues that you bring forth to the committee. I believe that's something that we all do hope for. There's someone with knowledge. I'm going to give some time over to Ms. Yako from Speaker's Office. She does have an announcement related to that. And also, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, if you're still on the line, I have to get on Budget and Finance Committee, budget hearing, Division of Natural Resources. Legislation is being read into the record, so I have to make my opening statement there. So, Mr. Vice Chair Walker, if you're good with it, I would appreciate you facilitating the RDC meeting. Ms. Yako?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Nez and members of the Resources and Development Committee. I just wanted to make a quick announcement in regards to Shania Delegate Begay's announcement with the new regional director coming in for the Bureau of Indian Affairs Navajo region. The Speaker's office is working to finalize a meet and greet with the incoming RD this coming Tuesday, August 31st. And so we wanted to coordinate enough time for leadership to be able to communicate and discuss any kind of ongoing initiatives that are currently happening and for future reference. So the incoming regional director will be here in Window Rock the 31st, and the finalized agenda will be going out to everyone this afternoon. And so the RD has opened up his schedule to our understanding for leadership for the afternoon to discuss any kind of initiatives with you all. And so we also will have a call-in number as well for anyone who won't be able to join in person here, but the meeting will be taking place at the chambers. So that way there will be enough room for everyone to be able to get in and out. So I just wanted to make that announcement really quick. And thank you, Chairman Nez and members of RDC.
Thank you, Ms. Yako. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, could you
Yes.
go over the meeting, sir? Thank you.
Okay, Hagoshi. Thank you, Chairman Nez, committee members. So we are still on announcements. Are there any other announcements?
Vice Chair Walker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Okay, Honorable Charles Newton, welcome to our meeting. Do you have an announcement?
No, Vice Chair, I just wanted to announce that I was on the call. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good announcement. Thank you for joining us. Hakoshi, any other announcements? If not, then we move on to introductions, starting with Resource Development Committee members. Shananda, Delegate Freeland, introductions. Honorable Stewart, introductions. Honorable T. Ellen Begay, introductions. Chairman, maybe hello, my brother was muted. Anyway, كدوش تاج شكاين وسنجي هنغان هيد نانشلون كي آن إيدا شجاع بتعني دا شيء أرو دش شيء نيدا شناله كوكو شلا بلاندا تلي بتخد الشحكي إيه جيتز بصوت لجندش كي تخدشي تسلك دز أتسلان نازلن أرو داك هلانه كد أي كدوش نانش instant chairman vice chair. Yeah. Agoshi, thank you. Honorable Daniels, introductions.
Good morning again. Kudo, Vice Chair Kudo, the Pro Temp Chair. Kudo should add Kudo Herman Daniels Jr. Kudo Adon and Slinig Ebit Ani. Nazay Tabin to Sky House Azbit Anike at Enigi Kudo Adon and Slabit Ani. Kudo das Zege Ketchini to the sun. This scene last Chile, das is there. So National to head lean I should say, not head neda. No great Banas Nashiki Yanaway or Jet ho. Not if on shot ho other in that happy can a banashness over than each at the house of Snake or less. Vice Chair, thank you very much.
Agushing, thank you for that. Honorable Freeland, are you back on the call?
Che,
introductions.
I apologize, Che, for missing the call. Good morning, She Mark Freeland is here. Don't let me Tutsoni, slow up Kia Ani, Bushes Chin, Sanja Kinne, a dash a che, about Tena Bethlehem, a dash another. It's Tosik Aresin Shaya. I represent 8 chapters out of Eastern Navajo, but I also have the 23 others on this committee, Eastern representative. So the 8 chapters that I represent are Crown Point, Nahadishki, Ahai, Basenti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, and Nyaza, along with the 23 other Eastern chapters. Good morning to one and all. I look forward to our conversation this morning, Che. Honorable Che, Pro Tem, colleagues on Rdc and staff. Good morning, staff. Thank you for all that you do out there and all of our Navajo Nation staff as well. Thank you for everyone who is a part of this Navajo Nation government and makes everything happen each and every day. And to all the listeners out there, good morning. Blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you, Che.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland, for the introductions and the greetings. Yeah. Honorable Stewart, introductions. You might be on mute, *6.
Yes, good morning, Shija. Doyat A. Snaika. So it's not I.
Honorable Stewart, we're only receiving part of what you're saying. It's not clear what you're saying. Honorable Stewart, you're not coming in clear.
Hello.
Nan-nasha.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Honorable Stewart, you're cutting in and out. So, Chairman Nez a Yapinan Chale, a Budget and Finance Committee, hearings bandal day ajugo. Ajshinta. Paho Ahdinago legislation revisits, budget revisits. Akot Ela ko Nana She Ya Thomas Walker Jr. Das Janido City to Hadlin to Nana Sanado Takoha did Aja Nahos Adio the Ne Bishwas on the bunch. Akot Echo Nana the Dolan Shinigi Shin Hinshin being Petoni Bashishin Tutsomish that is also this Gini National Akot Echo Western Agency Dingo. Dingo Nashako. Okay, staff introductions, Ms. Begay.
Good morning, Vice Chair. This is Teresa. And she Teresa Woody, she had couple hundred of the Bethlehem in the Bashchin. Can I that she cheated to the Jenny that she nala? What all any thousands need all she legislative assistant in with Office of Legislative Services. RDC Epic she what oh yeah. Thousands need I don't lay yet ain't go steamboat. I did go in a shot. Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Woody.
Mr. Tahi, introductions.
Morning, Honorable Vice Chair. This is Rodney Tahi. I'm Kiani and Senja Kenneth. I'm originally from Steamboat and want to say good morning to everyone on this Zoom call. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Ms. Begay.
Good morning, Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Shami Begay in Shiedo. I'm the Resource Development Committee Advisor. And na kaiden Angela de Betlijan, the Bashistrin Topahi de Dashiche, Hachini de Dashanalo da 8 San Angela, Lay Sawmill, Arizona, Dan Bonasha. Ado, I apologize. I'm also helping monitor the budget hearing with Chairman Nez. Back to you, Chair, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourself, Ms. Begay. Office of the Speaker, staff, Begay. Introductions. You might be on mute. Jahi Nasnan, Office of Legislative Counsel. Introductions.
Yat Ed Arnoldson, Yat Ed Neshik A, Ado Yat Ed Resources and Development Committee members, Danothinigi, Do Yat Ed Beshban, Das Anigi, Danothinigi, Ado Ahehet and Sago, Tiar Sodazin Behensi, Eba Ahenile, Ahehet and Sago. She Mariana Khan, the Shijine. For this Ado Tejan be Toho Ye Ben Nasha. Don't in the Shinigi a tot ye gleaning, but Ahi Bashish Chi. Last year, that should say, Tenjikinet Dashanala. A Hehet and Sago that Isins Agi Ado. A Hehet and Sago, Navajo Nation employees and those who have come to present today. Your participation is key to today's information. Good morning, one and all. Back to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you for the introduction, Ms. Khan. Before we move on, let's recognize and then have introductions from the 24th Navajo Nation Council colleagues, those that are on the line, honorable delegates, introductions. We heard Honorable Charles Newton earlier. So if you can introduce yourself, Honorable Charles Newton.
Oh, yeah, Shaja, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I am Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman for Law and Order Committee. I represent the Shirbak community. I will apologize, Vice Chair. I am on my way to Window Rock at this time, so I will be on the call. However, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introductions and welcome to the RDC meeting here. Honorable Newton. Other colleagues of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, introductions. At the Office of the President and Vice President, staff or representatives, introduce it. Chairman, Vice Chair Walker, this is Delegate Rick Nez. Yes. If I may, Rick Nez in Shiawasanan, or Zaytwachi, Bashish Chain, Sana, Business Cheroki, Ani, the Navajo chapters, Ganash, Nishiki, Chedat, Ando, San Juan and Hamza, so East Tosacado, East Ndeshkis. So yeah, thank you for being on the call with us all. Hello, I'm going to be on the budget and finance budget hearings for DNR. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Nez, for the introduction. Shahi, Nasnan, division staff, division directors, introductions, if you're on the call.
Good morning, Honorable Vice Chair Walker and Delegate of the Resource Committee. This is Kevin Gleason with Navajo Fish and Wildlife Law Enforcement Program.
Thank you for being on the call, Mr. Gleason.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the RDC. My name is Robert Allen from the Division of Natural Resources. I'm the principal attorney here. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. Any other introductions from divisions, departments, and programs?
Good morning, RDC Committee. My name is Leanna Begay, and I am here on behalf of the Navajo Department of Fish and Wildlife Natural Heritage Program. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to our meeting. Any other Navajo Nation divisions, programs, and departments?
Good morning, Chair. This is Samantha Jim Martin.
Whose book is this? Whose paper is this? Something belongs to you.
Question. Thank you, Ms. Jim Martin, for being on the call. Johnny, let me back up a bit. Speaker's office staff introductions.
Hi, good morning, Vice Chair Walker and members of Resources and Development Committee. Melinda Arviso Siako Yanchiedo, Legislative Staff Assistant for Speaker Damon here in Window Rock, Arizona. Thank you for having us on the call this morning.
Okay, thank you for the introductions. Also backing up, members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, I know some are just now getting on the call here. Introductions. Chinanda, colleagues. You might have to unmute yourselves. Ms. Jahi, moving on, BIA Regional Office Staff introductions. Ms. Curley.
Good morning. I've been Vice Chair Walker, Doe, RDC members, everyone on this call. Cheryl Curley, BIA Navajo Region. Ado Shanad Ani, Mr. Sosi, Acting Regional Director, and Mr. Stevens is currently on the Health and Human Services Committee meeting, also occurring now. So I just wanted to make that announcement to you, Vice Chair. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Curley, for the introduction and then the information stuff. And welcome to the RDC meeting. Introductions. Visiting officials.
Yate. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sheya Jean Holiday, when she a Vice President. I was sworn in on August 17, 2021. So I'm a new official here, learning. Sheya is a Todich ini Bashichin. No Datkachini Edashiche, bit an Edashinala. Nle Train Rot, Utah, north of Train Rot, Utah, de Inasha. I'm here on behalf of the Untitled Chapter official with Daniels. But Nahaniya to Hehe. Not Ani Danoshinigi. To Tadinzane Hehe.
Yeah, welcome to the Resource Development Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Any other visiting officials? Introductions? Honorable Yazi, Edmund Yazi, are you on the call, sir? Introductions?
Yeah, hello? Vice Chair.
Yes, Honorable Yazi.
Yeah, Vice Chair, RDC member, good job, Vice Chair. I was trying to kind of sneak in, but I am here. I've been listening. I am calling from Coolidge, New Mexico. So I am here with RDC, and I represent the 6 chapters on the Eastern Agency area. So it's good to be here, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Yazi. Welcome to the RDC meeting call here.
Yes, sir.
Any other delegates at the 24th Council on the call? Introductions? Visiting officials? Introductions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
This is Willis Begay with the Auditor Chapter.
Okay.
Auditor Chapter President. I'm here on behalf of the audit report also for Auditor. And I'm the Chinese Science Between versus Saint. Gonna throw the shade up in the chin that's not mentioned.
Okay. Welcome to our meeting here, Mr. Begay of J. Todo. Although any other visiting officials?
Yes, good morning, Chair and Resource and Development Committee. This is Violet Nelson from the Rdc Chapter Land Board, and I thank you for the invite today, and thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. Again, welcome to the RDC meeting. Jahe, any other visiting officials? Nasha. Honorable Stewart, are you back on the call? Your introductions. Okay, we do have an agenda here. So let's move on to item 3 on our agenda, reviewing and improving the agenda. Ms. Begay, can we have a reading of the agenda? Ms. Begay or Mr. Tahi? I know Ms. Begay, those who's monitoring the call.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this Resource Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council regular meeting, Wednesday, August 25th, 2021, 10 a.m. Agenda, presiding, Honorable Ricky Nez, Chairperson, Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Location is by telecommunication. 1, calling meeting to order, roll call, invocation, announcement. 2, recognizing guests, visiting officials. 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. 4, reviewing and approving journal for August 18, 2021. 5, receiving report. There's none. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, legislation 015821. B, legislation 016121. C, legislation 016721. D, legislation 017121. E, approving to reschedule a 2-day joint meeting with RDC and BNF with CPK Insurance. And that recommended date is September 23rd, 24th in Scottsdale, Arizona. F, approving to schedule a leadership meeting with Navajo Division of Economic Development. D, nomination business site lease approving committee, RBDO BIA. Nomination Land Department General Land Development regarding the business sites development, business leases, and other related issues concerned. G, approving to schedule a leadership meeting with the Eastern Navajo Land Board regarding the tri-party agreement and other related issues and concern. H, approving to schedule a leadership meeting with AT&T and FirstNet and others to have further discussion on the FirstNet implementation on nomination. 8, close the meeting. Other announcement, adjournment. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Gay, for reading the proposed agenda. Committee members, is there a motion to approve the agenda here? Nanda?
Mr. Chair, this is Delegate Herman Daniels. Make the motion.
Yes. Okay, motion by Honorable Daniels, and a second offered by Honorable Freeland. Ella, committee members, are there any amendments to be made? Any questions, comments? At that, we can certainly call for the vote.
Vice Chair Walker?
Yes.
This is Delegate Charles Newton. I would like to make a request at this time to the RDC members regarding the agenda. Could I be recognized to do so?
Okay. State your request, Honorable Charles Newton.
Vice Chair, I would like to ask that my legislation, I didn't hear it being read today. I thought it was on for today's RDC meeting. Perhaps it's just because I didn't hear it. But if my legislation is on the agenda, Vice Chair Walker, I'd like to request that it be moved to the next RDC meeting. The reason is my agents are not available at this time, and I'm just afraid that there might be questions that my agents may need to answer. If I do proceed forward, I wouldn't be able to answer those questions, and I don't want to take up time from the RDC committee. So again, if we could just move the legislation back to the next RDC meeting, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so Honorable Charles Newton, you're referencing legislation 167-21, yeah?
Yes, that's the citizen amount for the $350,000. Yes, sir.
Okay, Hakushin. The motioning party, Honorable Daniels, so second Honorable Freeland. The one item is taking it off the agenda. And that'd be my question to you as the motioning party.
Mr. Vice Chair, I concur. This is Daniel.
Honorable Che Freeland.
Honorable Che, thank you.
Agoshin. So we have legislation 0167-21 to be deleted off to the agenda today at the request of the sponsor. Any other amendments to the legislation or to the agenda? I'm sorry. Any other amendments that need to be made? At the we can vote call for the vote. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote on this?
Green.
Honorable Paul Freeland votes green. Honorable Stewart, how do you vote? Honorable Key Allen Begay, how do you vote?
Chairman Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Begay votes green. Honorable Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Christine? No, not Chairman Nez, Nisha. Or how do you vote if you're on the call?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green. Thank you.
Okay. So let me back up. Honorable Wilson Stewart, how do you vote here? Okay, so we have a vote of 5 in favor, opposing, none, and then the vice chair not voting. Motion carries. We have our agenda for this morning. There being no reports, that's item
Thank
number
you, Vice
5.
Chair, for my request. Thank you.
I was going to say, have a good day. Item 5, no reports listed. Item 6, old business,
Chairman
there are
Nez.
none.
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Teresa. I have I have a journal on the agenda.
Number 4.
Okay, let's back up. I apologize for that. Let's move back to item 4, approving the journals. Staff.
Mr. Vice Chair, again, this particular item journal, it was emailed to you from Teresa's office, and then yesterday I also emailed you copies of it. You should have copies of the document.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, review and approval of the journal dated August 18, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Delegate Herman Daniels. I'm going to make that motion. I don't know Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a motion by Honorable Daniels to approve the journal. Is there a second?
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, Honorable Freeland offers the second. Questions and comments? If not, we can take a vote. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote on this?
Green.
Green. Honorable Freeland votes green. Honorable Stewart, how do you vote? Okay, Honorable T. Allen Begay, how do you vote?
Chairman Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Begay votes green. Honorable Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote green. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Daniel votes green. Chairman Nez, how do you vote?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Chairman Nez votes green. Okay, so we have a vote of 4 in favor, opposing, there are none. The motion carries. Item 5, reports, there are none. Item 6, old business, there are none. Item 7, new business, legislation 0158-21. So, Ms. Begay?
Chairman, Vice Chair, can you call to see if the sponsor of the legislation is on the call?
Okay, sure. Sponsors are
Honorable Edmund Yazzie and Honorable Pernell Halona, the co-sponsor. Are you on the call, sir?
Okay.
Sponsor Honorable Yazzie is on the call.
Okay, you have legislative summary sheet for tracking number 0158-21. The date on it is July 27, 2021. Title of the resolution: an act relating to resource development, law and order, Navajo and Navajo Nation Council, amending 23 NNC sections 501, 502, 505 through 509, and enacting 23 NNC sections 600 at SEC, Chapter 6, Fish and Wildlife, Civil Enforcement. The purpose of this resolution, if approved, will amend Title 23 of the Navajo Nation Code, Fish and Wildlife, Civil Enforcement. This particular legislation is sponsored by Honorable Edmund Yazzie, co-sponsored by Honorable Pernell Halona. The document is assigned to Resource Development, Law and Order, Navajo Nation Council. Tracking number 0158, again, will be read fully into the record at the Navajo Nation Council, who will have final authority. You will note that in the packet, in the legislation, this is amending the Navajo Nation Title 23, Section 501 through 509, and enacting 23 NNC 600, and it's a Fish and Wildlife Civil Enforcement. When you go to page 40, page 5 of 40, the Chapter 6 Fish and Wildlife Civil and Action Form. From there, all of the provisions there are underlined, meaning that those are new, all new language. In those new language, it talks about the various definitions of the code, and then it covers penalty. It also covers certain wildlife and so forth. So I would encourage RDC to really look at this legislation. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Begay, for the reading of the legislation. Committee members, is there a motion to approve? Delegate Rick Nez motions. Okay, Chairman Nez motions. Is there a second? Committee members, is there a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel. I'll go ahead second.
Honorable Daniels offers that second. Sponsor and his agents will be allowed time to present the legislation. Honorable Yazzie.
Okay, Vice Chair, thank you. Also, the committee members and also to everyone else that is listening online. I do have my agents that are on the phone call as well, RDC members, and Mr. Gleason and his staff. Committee members, we ask for your approval. This legislation has been researched and by our staff, Mr. Gleason and his staff, and it's pretty much giving and making a strong enforcement on our game and fish personnel who are out in the area of protecting our wildlife and who are protecting the sources that we have on the Navajo Nation. And so I've have met with Mr. Gleason. He had explained the purpose of the legislation, and so we went ahead and decided that it has to be a legislation to make that change to give our staff a better how would you say enforcement on any violation that is being done to offenders out on the Navajo Nation. So enough of me talking, Chair and committee members. I do have my expert witnesses who are on the line, and I would rather have them explain the purpose of the legislation in depth. And so I would like to turn over the phone airwaves to Mr. Gleason, sir.
Hey, Hakushin, thank you, Honorable Yazi. Mr. Gleason.
Good afternoon, or good morning, Honorable Delegates. This is Kevin Gleason with Navajo Fish and Wildlife. The purpose behind the Title 23 civil enforcement is currently our program operates on criminal laws and only criminal laws. With the current criminal laws, we cannot issue citations or violations to non-tribal members. And we're having a lot of issues with them on Navajo, knowing that we can't cite them into our courts. We do use a service for certain things, but there has to be a take. By enacting this legislation, it allows us to cite them into our tribal courts for violating our laws. We added additional laws into the code because the criminal code does not cover boating, issues with boating. We have a lot of issues with people not meeting the boating requirements, which we can't enforce currently. So we're asking for the civil laws to address some of those issues. We're also looking at being able to, due to the workload the courts have because of criminal, as a civil, we could technically use the officers to present their case themselves in courts to get it adjudicated under civil compared to criminal. Right now, enforcement is really lacking on Navajo due to the overwhelming caseload the courts have right now for criminal stuff. We added additional laws that we were running into that we didn't have laws against. One is use of ATVs and UTVs, which we don't want them using on the roads except for ranching because they tear up the place. They do a lot of damages. Including endangerment of a minor, because we have parents allowing their kids who are under the age of 14 on a boat with any adult supervision. We really researched these laws. We looked at all our surrounding states. We looked at federal law. We looked at other places that had these issues who adapted new laws. And we actually started this back in 2010. We've gone through 6 different attorneys with DOJ. And every time we got a new attorney, we had to start from scratch again because they had their opinions. And we're just trying to get a law where our game wardens would have the authority to enforce against both tribal and non-tribal without any issues. We also put our authority in this title because it's lacking under Title 17, which permits them to address other issues when we come across it. Because currently, right now, if we come across anything that's not related to wildlife, we're being told by our Department of Justice that we cannot handle it because it's not covered by Section 500 to 512, which they're right, it doesn't cover it. But I see it as an issue with lawsuits because we won't take action because we're being told we can't do it, but the public expects us to take that action. We also have another title in the loop, which deals with 17, expanding that also, but we're still working with DOJ on that one. The only one we currently got completed was Title 23. I thank you for your assistance. Thank you. It also allows us to establish a penalty assessment when dealing with poaching on Navajo, both by tribal and non-tribal. Because once we lose those resources, they're gone. And a minor violation, this would be like me issuing someone a ticket for no driver's license if I was a PD officer, which we can't do. But under this, we can cite them as civil instead of criminal. I'm done. Thank you.
Shane. Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Back to the sponsor, Honorable Yazzie.
Yes, Vice Chair, committee members, Mr. Gleason, thank you for your presentation. Committee members, this, as we explained, will give our game and fish officers, a stronger enforcement for offenders while they're protecting the wildlife of the Navajo Nation. And so I know there might be a question as far as jurisdictions over non-Indians. As you know that with Navajo Police under the Title 17, the civil infraction gives an opportunity for a law enforcement to go ahead and issue a citation. So that's under the civil, and this is why the purpose of this legislation is. And so I would just ask for your support, RDC, and I know during the council and NABI session, we'll continue, myself and Mr. Gleason will get together and also conduct and give more points. But for now, RDC members, we're starting the process, and we'd like to get your approval and go on to the next committee, and then on to the next committee, and then on to the Navajo Nation Council. So again, Chair, I would, committee members would ask your support for this legislation. I know I've been hearing a lot and always that we want to help our law enforcement, and this is one of them. And so I just ask for your support. We stand for questions now. Vice Chair, committee members, sir.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Yazzie, for you and your agent for presenting the legislation to the committee here. Committee members, questions and comments?
Chairman Keelan, if committee member wants to go first, I have series of questions. Chairman.
Okay, Hakwashin, thank you for that consideration, Honorable Begay. Committee members, questions? Do you have any questions for legislation 0158-21 as presented by Honorable Yazzie, sponsor, and his agent?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Delegate Herman Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair, RDC members, staff, Legislative Council, my good Che from New Mexico, Chairman Yazzie, thank you for bringing this legislation before Resources and Development Committee today. Listening to the conversation, listening to the presentation, hearing from my Che from many farms, series of questions. Would have been nice if we had a leadership meeting on this. I don't know, even if we table this, it will still go on to the next committee. So maybe when it reaches Navajo level, that's we now to have a work session on this, because the reason why I say it is because there's a lot of questions to this. So I support the legislation, but maybe a work session when it reaches Navajo. So Vice Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels, for your question and your, I guess, suggestion there. Other committee members, questions and comments? If not, then at this time we can go to Honorable Begay for his questions. Honorable Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman, are we prepared to be here up to midnight? Brother, Mr. Yazi, Delegate Yazi, Kudo legislation Hitanin, so Ziki, the Fish and Wildlife staff in Tlinigi, I don't know if the division, the program director or division director is online, and I would like to see if Division of Public Safety would be online as well on some of these questions that I plan on posing. Before going into the questions, I'm almost halfway, but I already have about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 questions. Maybe do a series of 3 questions and then get back to me. But I like, first of all, again, I think it's just a matter of courtesy for programs as an oversight to do some form of presentation or at least a review with the committee. This is what we're presenting, and this is what we'll be presenting, because it doesn't make sense for an oversight committee program, because they need to go, but yet we're the main one asking the question. I think our program really needs to be aware of that. Yes, every committee or any delegate has the right to sponsor legislation. Oversight committee need Liniki, and then how is this correlating with the budget that we're now presenting to the Budget and Finance Committee? Because the staffing, how do we have sufficient staffing to enforce this particular policy that we will be implementing? And that's one of the areas that we have been pushing on RDC, which is Ranger enforcement. Though it does, it could present a proposal, that's a baby national the Fish and Wildlife, that's the other proposal they lay. Because what we're trying to do at the moment is to see if we'd be able to have a sufficient income for rangers for enforcement. That's going to be in place by the time that we approve this particular legislation. If someone is gung-ho to cover the whole Navajo Nation, I applaud them. But the thing is that we're bigger reservation go hit alla cover idol lito el idol le ko e kwa ki la this ko legislation again hitahni source ko benna go e I think we're talking about Title 23 and Title 17. I mean, that's a big issue right there. Title 17. A lot of times I think there's a policy that indicates that Title 2, 7, and 17, something that needs to be more comprehensive approach to change the policy. So a lot of time it caused some problems, but I may be wrong on that one. That's just a general statement. First, Chairman, RDC members need Linigi, 15821 Hidahni Source, Joe Kodo, Benache Kodo programs, though, then presented the Osaki, a 5 minutes presentation to make a drastic change of a policy doesn't jive with me. I believe that each of the areas should be detailed out to say that these are the area that we're making changes, and this is how we came to a conclusion into making these recommendations in this policy. Just so I would have even gave you maybe an hour to do the presentation to the committee to have a better understanding of the whole legislation. Oversight committee members need Linigi as an RDC. Again, the enforcement. How is it structured? What area, which part of the Navajo Nation are we mainly looking at for these different type of wildlife? Just like it's more of a plain area, and then some areas are more mountainous. The geographic locations of these animals that migrate or habitat or within the canyons or any other area. I mean, how we're working we'll be working with the Park Service, the national parks, like Grand Canyon, Canyon de Chelly, and Monument Valley. Coordinate as far as staffing the actual commission was it commission for them to carry firearms. I guess that's one area that I really need to get a better understanding of how that's why I've asked the public safety to be online staff. So if you, Chairman, if I could request if the police chief or division director could be online to help get some answers on this particular weapon inclusion of requirement, because at the middle it asks that carrying a loaded firearm they'll be subject to certain penalties. So that's one question, though, the number of staffing that we're looking at to to literally cover the whole Navajo Nation. What is the budget that we're looking at on the staffing, though? What is the range of, and how are we coordinating this with the rangers and maybe to some extent the EPA enforcement other the public safety enforcement. So how are we coordinating that with the all the other programs that are in similar situation to enforce these policies? Number two, Eagle. How are we? How are we? I guess know that the religious policy titled in terms of harvesting eagle for religious purpose. Washington koko e kodo halane na. How many of our Navajo people actually goes to your office to request for eagle ajdit for religious purpose? Kila hane na na sosindiniki yahanda yi nes ado katlai hit aj be hol just de kodre san liniki be sato bet sodizan yosiniki la hit kodo na na sosindiniki kaben dan deto what major change will it covers in other area, although the other Kujit in the midst of our Navajo Nation on the Arizona side, you know that we have a tribe within our within the inner boundary of the Navajo reservation. I hope you tribe done Liniki because we still have some issues when I deal with my chapters of the NPL. The better than the impound yan nata yan da khay aje sato ben anishko elahit the Eagle religious liniki hit alle koto sad liniki because all it outlines is the penalties over cut. Coco, I really need to get me some more information of that particular area. Although a lot of time, public, I think public announcement is very lacking, is much lacking on the Navajo Nation. That's the key thing. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, not only with the fish and wildlife, but on the Navajo Nation. I think that's the reason why a lot of our Navajo people dit up in has ando dit up has on it that ni go hajot and nepe go. So we have an enterprise of Kodo radio station do ye go chini ida ki ensen o what ashaban sas case ado ashon what ni hagi get that o kojibla gana jit e sad linigi. I mean, no offense to our Navajo people that I'm sure they have a justification of not really that could be able to speak in Navajo, but Aquajin Hizad and Liniki, the Nepe Bhon no Inla, the Sani has tweeted on Liniki and Matan Liniki to Jad and Liniki, Koto Sato that she yen Dan Kin Shohe did all and let them bahan did all Hohot and his ne. Ne Johnny without you add the Yesh Yatal to that Satoshi, the Nayel can not just got out. Ecuador public announcement had Liniki. So relating to that public announcement, the Giju Kodo, we researched the federal law and the state law didn't need. So a lot of time Kodo Sated all be has ani big and I or lit oji the hot a haki dot oji be has ani that a haki then did I could be at the Yahi Nico could o be has on go be Ilya go only jati hot edo ajati hot a baby nashkon filter did up has on it nishti ni go to jo koto ni hitin and la the banana she yosanita hot ego koto o baby kitchen nail national hadlin satte hot a koto sad liniki to has on liniki hot up a call a quackation. I'm sure that's where the public comments or public hearing comes into play. Dit alla be has on ne to dit alla be has on the how ne hala di sato be beta det ge to in lat nen dan ka de ge to ATV that the ne ATV how on his tada de jo kodo ha ta hal la do le no da ba da ba ka gi ko kodo san hit nen lin gi that hegi en dan ka e that e kodo Sato that's been in and Kaden that's been Kodo Bahal Lado Lisa. So I think those are some areas that really needs to be distinguished before we implement this particular overall policy. I call a quacky gita how that's it tonight. That's Kito Listo Ado Shana Dolja brother. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Begay, for your
questions. There are 3 questions, and let's go back to the sponsor and his agent to give responses. Honorable Yazzie.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you to Mr. Daniels, my favorite and good bro Che from Arizona Che, then also to Mr. Begay for your questions and comments. As you all are aware, Mr. Begay and Mr. Daniels, back in the LOC days from the past council, there was a report that was given to LOC regarding this issue, and it was talked about. And when we enter our legislation, it goes into comment periods. And as lawmakers, we have the opportunity to go into the internet and look at each legislation that's coming, and gives us time to research and gives us time to study the legislation. But I do understand the importance of this. But as far as time, opportunity, we do have that time and to research the bill, and all we can do is either vote yes or no. And so when listening to, this here, and the purpose of the bill is just to make it stronger for our game and fish officers who are out there in the front lines. And I, just hearing the comments is that, I always say to myself, all the offenders, they just, they don't go by guidelines. They don't go by, what the law is all about. And, and it pretty much offending the law on the nation or anywhere is real easy for them. But when we want to make, as enforcement, when we want to make law strong for us, there's, it's always, a setback. And so, and that's what I heard, with all the murders and homicides that are happening up in Albuquerque, and, the current sheriff right now stating that the law, has made it where the offenders can get away and, with all breaking the law. And that's what I honestly believe in, and from our law enforcement view too as well. This legislation give us the opportunity to strengthen the laws per, the officers who are out there. I do understand, again, that there's a lot of questions. And I do, and Mr. Officer Gleason, I know we can do a work session, maybe we can go to Scottsdale with you and do a work session and on this issue where, we can get an understanding and get the approval and to move it forward. So having said that, Officer Gleason, could you, I'll give you the airtime right now to answer Mr. Begay's question and the comments on my Arizona Che from Utah Che, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Gleason, sir.
Thank you, Delegate Yazzie. Going back to Mr. Thank you, Delegate Yazzie. Going back to Delegate Daniels, I do agree that we need to do a more comprehensive presentation for the committee. This is a big change. We do have a lot of issues dealing with violations on Navajo. We have a lot of issues with our own courts hearing these cases. We haven't had a court case in Navajo Nation Court in the last 4 or 5 years, even though we've cited people and we asked for prosecution. Like Delegate Yazzie had informed you, the law is not strong. They find ways to not take the cases. If an animal is taken, we refer it to the service. And that's the only prosecutions we've had in the last 4 to 5 years is because of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for Lacey Act violations and things like that. But they can't prosecute for lesser crimes like somebody shooting from a vehicle, things like that. Now, going over to Delegate Begay's question. Our program is only staffed with 8 game wardens. Prior to this year, we've only had 6 positions. Our officers travel the whole reservations to enforce the crimes. We can enforce part of Title 17 without being in conjunction with Navajo Police. And you keep referring to rangers. I used to be a ranger for 16 years. I actually left them when I was a lieutenant there, came to Fish and Wildlife. The way they enforce Title 17, according to their authority and the way it's written, is they have to be in conjunction with Navajo Police, which means a PD officer has to be there with them. With us, they don't have to be there with us to enforce the law on anything under 17 that deals with the sections that we are responsible for. We got 2 more additional positions due to federal funding. And they're both under K counts, which are split costs between 4 contracts to fund 2 more additional officers for 5 more years. We've always been the smallest enforcement force under DNR besides Forestry. Forestry has 3. And our officers do the best job they can with what they got, with what we have and what we can do. Now, the commissioning to carry firearms, and he keeps referring to Division of Public Safety. Currently, we don't answer to the Division of Public Safety, but we follow the same protocols they do in order to carry firearms, training. Ours, they require 40 hours of training a year to maintain their certification. My officers maintain 80 because we deal with the service and federal laws plus the tribal laws. We attend a certified law enforcement academy, just like they do. We're trained to be cops, not trained to be game wardens. We have to learn that when we come here. He referred to the eagles. People want eagles, feathers, birds for traditional purpose. Due to federal law, we're not allowed to give them out. Any eagles, parts of birds that we come in contact with are sent to the repository. And our tribal members can apply to the repository to get these feathers. About 8 to 10 years ago, we applied for an Aviary Permit, which is run by the zoo program. We were given permission to distribute feathers from our aviary to the public and to our traditional people for traditional purposes. But that's done through the zoo. And due to the size of our tribe and the number of requests, they only give out 2 feathers per person. And they can do that every year. I legally cannot give any person a bird, an eagle, for traditional purpose due to what federal law states. It's still protected by the Federal Migratory Bird Act, and it's still protected by the Ball and Golden Eagle Act. I have explained this to our historic preservation. It does upset me that another tribe within our area is allowed to collect birds on Navajo. That is due to the compact agreement between the Navajo Nation and Hopi. I've asked our historic preservation, since we have a traditional office, to present to the service to show the needs for our people. And I've even instructed them not to include the last 6 years of anything that's been collected by our people, so that way prosecution can't happen to these people who are doing it. But we do have a lot of issues with people killing birds for money. And it has nothing to do with tradition. I hope this answers some of your questions, Delegate Begay. I do respect your questions. It is frustrating for they're here for the law enforcement program to try to get things done, and I'm not getting no response from the other programs to help us with it. But I do appreciate everything. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Yes. Honorable Yazi.
Hey, this is Edmund Yazi. Thank you, Officer Gleason. So I do agree with the committee members, Vice Chair. Perhaps we should just go ahead and I'm asking the RDC members that if we can just have a work session just for this, and and I'm okay with tabling, and I'm pretty sure Officer Gleason does agree, and that way we can go before the committee and give an in-depth presentation to the committee, so that we all have a good understanding on this, because it's important. We want the legislation to, be approved, just because of the enforcement part. We need to do it for the fishes, for the bears, for the wildcats, cougars, prairie dogs, etc. And so I'm asking the committee if we could just do that, and we'll present back to the committee in work session. Officer Gleason, are you okay with that, sir?
Delegate Yazzie, I agree that we need to do a comprehensive presentation to the committees on it, because it is a big change.
Okay, sir. So with that, Vice Chair, I'll leave it up to the committee members. Sir.
Okay.
Privilege.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Yazzie, Mr. Gleason, for the responses there. Although your recommendation or your requests for a work session, Ada, so that's noted. Honorable Freeland.
Jay, point of privilege. Thank you, Jay. In regards to the request made by the sponsor, my honorable brother, Honorable Evan Yazzie, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this question goes to Ledge Council. If we act on it as a tabling motion, that tabling motion will not be adhered to, because this legislation will still move on to the next committee. I think that's my point of privilege, Che. Correct me if I'm wrong, Office of Ledge Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Freeland.
Vice Chair.
Hello. Office of Legislative Counsel, Mariana Khan. Can you give us a response to the question there?
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Resources and Development Committee, this is Mariana Khan from Office of Legislative Counsel. Delegate Freeland does raise the important issue that Resources and Development Committee is not final authority on this particular legislation. If Resources and Development Committee chooses to table the legislation goes forward to the next committee, which is the Law and Order Committee, and eventually onto the Nabikia Committee, and then to Council. Mr. Vice Chair, I'll be on listening for further questions, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for that response there. Shahi, Honorable Yazzie, you were ready to ask another question or make a statement there?
Yes, Vice Chair. To answer the question of Honorable Freeland and to the committee members, if the committee tables this, Scouts Honors will go ahead and wait and get ready to prepare for a presentation to RDC. Yes, the bill moves on, but it's also the right of the sponsor not to be at that next committee meeting. So I do make the full commitment, and we'll go ahead and get ready with Officer Gleason and his staff, and we'll get ready for the presentation to RDC work session. And then after that, we'll go back before RDC, and then we'll move forward to LOC, Navi, then to the council. I'll go ahead and sign the contract too, sir, on that.
Okay, so contract to Scouts Honor, yeah. Committee members.
Yes,
so committee members, response from Legislative Council. There's a request from the sponsor and his agent is to go ahead and have a comprehensive
presentation on this legislation. Though in light of how legislations keep moving, and RDC is not the final authority. At the end, it's just not on this working together, and then relying on the sponsors' commitment or plans. That's his prerogative, on when, how he moves the legislation through the legislative process. We can, I think, table, and that's that, with maybe some directives there. By the time it reaches the next committee, our recommendation is included and considered and so forth. Shanant, back to you. Committee members,
Che.
Honorable Freeland.
Che. Thank you, Che. I'd like to go ahead and make that motion to table, but I know it's going to move on. But I'd also like to ask our staff within the committee report, once it does get to LOC, to please refer it back to RDC. And we are working with the program and the sponsor on bringing additional language and information forth regarding this legislation from oversight of Fish and Wildlife. So I want to include that, and I know Honorable Yazzie has good credit, so we'll base it on his credit score and give him 90 days, same as cash option as well on his contract. Understand, brother. But hey, I don't want to make that motion with that added language, if we can, excluding the good credit and the 90 days, same as. If we can, ask LOC to refer back to RDC. And yeah, thank you, Che.
Okay, Honorable Freeland. So motion made to table. Is there a second?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Mariana Khan. May I make a clarification?
Okay, before I ask for a second, Shahi, Ms. Khan.
Mr. Vice Chair, as far as referring it back to Resources and Development Committee, the committee that has the authority to make a referral back to RDC is the Nabikiat Committee. And perhaps that should be put into the report into the RDC report, because the Law and Order Committee does not have the authority to make the referral back to RDC. Nabikiat has that authority. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Vice Chair, this is Shami.
Hold on. Hello. Appreciate. Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Khan. Though the motioning party, if you can hold on to that motion, let's go to advisor, Mr. Gay.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, RDC has set precedent with legislation 010921. That was Jimmy Yellowhair's legislation. RDC tabled it with certain provisions in it. And so we did the committee report noting those provisions in there. And the sponsor agreed to keep the legislation at RDC until additional reports were provided. So, just for your information. Okay,
thank you, advisor, for that information. Back to Honorable Freeland, holder of the motion. Before I recognize a second or ask for a second, Legislative Council, Niniki advisor, Niniki in the tabling motion, DD with some, I guess, wording there that says to keep the legislation at RDC pending a leadership meeting.
Oh, Abigail, Che.
Agoshin, is there a second to this motion? Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Is there a second to this motion?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Mariana Khan again.
Okay, Shahi, Ms. Khan, we'll go back to you.
Mr. Vice Chair, the provision in Title 164A with regard to the movement of legislation is very clear as to what happens with a tabling motion. Just want to make it clear to you that our office tries to guide with regard to letting the committee know what is in the code with regard to legislation's progress. And if the members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council wish a different procedure to be available in situations such as this, then my advice is that an amendment be done to provide for these type of situations such that it is very clear to all parties involved that a particular pathway such as what you are discussing now is available. At this point in time, that any tabling is for a committee without final authority. It goes forward, Mr. Vice Chair. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you very much.
Agoshin, thank you for that clarification on top of the earlier clarification. Thank you, Ms. Khan. So, motioning party, Honorable Che Freeland, your motion, Nikki, can be to table. The other part to that is the recommending to the NABI committee to refer the matter back to RDC.
Okay.
So, and then once we move on this, then it's up to the sponsor to uphold his commitment, which is sort of like at his discretion to do work sessions and whatnot with committees. He's made it clear that he wants to hold a work session. So, Honorable Che, NABI meeting, NABI committee, recommend coordination that the referral happens, that they refer the matter back to RDC. Okay.
The language from LLC. We're back in. I have a feeling we might be asked to have a co-meeting with LLC too. So just FYI, Shnakai.
Okay.
Vice Chair.
Agoshin.
This is Edmund Yazi, Vice Chair. I appreciate
Honorable Yazi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Committee members and staff, I appreciate the comments. And I just have a question that if I am going to hold this back, RDC member, okay? Like I said, the legislation is important. And so Officer Good and I, we both already talked in text saying that he's already working on the presentation, in-depth presentation for this. I am not going to move this forward. But the thing I'm concerned about is when it gets to NABI, that wording is still going to be there, and then the rest of the committee is going to say, well, it's going to have to go back to RDC, even though we did the work session. The other way too, but I don't want to go that route, is that I can just hang up as a sponsor and have no sponsor until we, but I don't want to go that route, committee, because people will start talking. Then But anyway, that's my question. But we're working on the work session, committee members, and we will get back with the chair and the committee members on the day that we're ready to present. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Yazzie. So back to my Che from Eastern, Honorable Freeland. Tabling motion, then asking Nabikiati Committee to refer back to RDC. And then Edmund Yazzie, Honorable Yazzie has homework to do here to give us a work session. So we leave it up to Honorable Yazzie. That part, he said his word's good. But the process following it, we move along we table it at RDC. What happens after RDC? She sponsored LOC and down the line, so forth. Freeland.
Oh, Che Abiga. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Yazzie.
Okay. Committee members, is there a second?
Question of privilege. This is Daniels.
Question of privilege. Honorable Daniels.
Yes. Thank you, Vice Chair. There is going to be a tabling motion. The hearing from the sponsor. What he indicated is that he's not going to move this forward. He's going to leave it at RDC. I don't care nadi and Nabikia Tita get your burden dot nifty. I'm trying to put this puzzle together. So Mr. Vice Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Daniels, my other good Che. Chad, I think today. But Johan, I get you it at what table of the Minister Nabikia teaching the RDC budget, not from RDC. After today, a sponsor, teacher Basula at Ashing Yan Saki saw at Ashing a Naswayod, Liffy Basula. And we're hearing from the sponsor that he's telling RDC I will have a work session. So that's what we're relying on. We're going to table it, but he has some homework to do. And how it moves down the line to other committees, it's in the hands of the sponsor. That's what I'm saying, Shanant. So Honorable Daniels,
Mr. Vice Chair, yes, thank you.
So is there a second? This motion.
Second, Stewart, yeah.
What? Okay, Honorable Stewart offers that second. Motion made by Honorable Freeland. So let's go proceed to vote. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote? Green, no Texigila. Honorable Stewart, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Stewart votes green. Honorable K. Allen Begay, how do you vote?
Chairman, K. Allen votes green.
Honorable Begay votes green. Honorable Daniels, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel votes green. Chairman Nez, how do you vote?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green. Thank you.
Okay, we have a vote of 5 in favor. Opposing, there are none. Vice Chairman not voting. Thank you, Mr. Yazzie.
Thank you.
For today's presentation.
Oh, thank you. Cat, committee members, Pat.
Okay, Nashinando, the next item. I see a
Chairman
text message here. Oh, I see text message. Alan Begay asking for the floor. Honorable Begay.
Chairman, before you go on to the next legislation, the other area I believe that is at the discretion of the chair of RDC. I didn't want to complicate the tabling motion with this particular request. Kodo, yeah, but the one thing that I'll still bring up is that we need to inform the public on this particular legislation. Yes, it was a 5-day comment period. Yes, there was no any input during the 5-day comment period. But as you know, that the vast majority of our Navajo people don't have access to the internet. So I don't know if there needs to be a request that there also be a public hearing to be conducted on this particular legislation. I leave that comment recommendation to the committee, to the chairman. Public hearing is what I'm also requesting.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Begay. Advisor, the request, how can the committee respond to that or address that, a request for a public hearing on this particular legislation? Mr. Begay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Canadian legislation table adopted, and my understanding is that you are going to work with the sponsor, the agent, and the department on doing a work session. Di Aliago. Eben Kagone, you can issue a directive to the department to do a public hearing. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable Ellen Begay, at the work session, in addition to the work session, we can request a public hearing. I
concur, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Honorable Begay. The other next legislation, 0161-21, sponsor Honorable Herman Daniels. So staff, Shai, let's have a reading of this legislation. Ms. Begay.
Vice Chair, just a minute. I was putting up the document here. Hold on. You have legislative summary sheet for tracking number 0161-20. The date on the legislative summary sheet is July 27, 2021. Title of the resolution and action relating to resource and development, Budget and Finance Committee, accepting the Auditor General's follow-up review of the Untitled Chapter's Corrective Action Plan implementation and imposing sanction on the Untitled Chapter for failure to implement the Corrective Action Plan. And this particular legislation is assigned to Resource Development and Budget and Finance, and Herman Daniels is our prime sponsor. The legislation will be fully read into the record at Budget and Finance. You will also see that there are exhibits referenced in the content of the legislation. Those exhibits are attached to the packet that I sent you yesterday. And exhibit number 2 is the Auditor General's follow-up review on the Untitled Chapter A exhibit Bislow. And the packet was posted on the council website on August 11th, 2021. The 5-day comment period ended on August 16th, 2021. There was no comments received, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The floor, after a motion and second is done, the floor should be given to the Office of the Auditor General to do their presentation, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay, for reading the legislation. Committee members, is there a motion?
Motion, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Stewart makes that motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Delegate Martinez. Okay, Chairman offers that second. Office of Auditor General Shinkwe to give their presentation before going to the sponsor and agents. So, Office of Auditor General, are you on the call?
Yes, good afternoon.
Mr. Chair,
My name
Daniel. Do I go first? Right, sir?
Hold on. Honorable Daniels, Che, the Auditor General, the Adoshin sponsor, the agent, thank you. Office of Auditor General?
Point of order, Chairman Callan.
Okay, there's a point of order. What is your point of order, Honorable Begay?
Chairman, my point of order is that there's no way that we can act on the legislation unless the sponsor is the president and that he had acknowledged to refer the timing to the Auditor General. Otherwise, if there's no presenter, we can't act on this legislation. So I think it's more appropriate that we allow the presenter do his presentation first, then after Ecuador Auditor General, Chairman. That's my point of order. This is Delegate Daniel's legislation.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Begay. Ms. Shahid, Advisor, Office of Legislative Counsel, the order of the process here, sponsor legislation, you get read into the record. There's a motion made, there's a second. Usually sponsor, etc. Agent, and then others that relate or other that have some business or some authority related to the legislation normally. So, Honorable Begay's question, point of order, Ms. Begay.
Mr. Vice Chair, you just did an outline of how you want to present. You should just go with your outline, giving the floor to the sponsor.
Okay, thank you. Agoshin. The sponsor, so at this time, let's go to Honorable Daniels and his agent. Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, for the Pro Tem Chair, for the I don't know Shanat Senegi Kudo Resources and Development Committee. Arin and his staff, so the RDC staff. Arin the Kudo Office of Legislative Council, Kudo Shama, Ms. Khan. Kudo, thank you for being on the line. Kudo Arunana Kudo. Kudo Dino Flagi so that was Arin Kudo Dais so Kazuran Kudo Arunana Kudo. Senegi Kudo, the Resources and Development Committee. Before you have legislation 0161-21. Kudo. The purpose of this legislation is to accept the Auditor General follow-up review of the Oljeto chapter's implementation on its corrective action plan and to impose sanctions upon the Oljeto chapter for failure to implement its corrective action plan. With me today, I have Office of Auditor General as my there's two as my agent, Miss Karen Briscoe, Principal Auditor, and also Miss Janelle Benali, Associate Auditor. They're my agent. On the other side, there's Oljeto. As a sponsor for this legislation, to sanction Oljeto chapter. So, legislation. So, legislation. Chapters not just legislation so but Auditor General's office in the rate findings that it's attached to this legislation as an exhibit. So at this time, I'm going to give some time to my agents, the two that I mentioned. Mr. Vice Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. The two agents from the Office of Auditor General, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Karen Briscoe with the Office of the Auditor General. I'm here with Janelle Benali. She was the lead auditor for this follow-up review. So we're here to present a follow-up review of the Oljeto chapter's corrective action plan implementation. Back in 2019, we completed a special review of the chapter, and the chapter developed a corrective action plan. The report and corrective action plan were approved by the Budget and Finance Committee back in December of 2019. So the objective of this follow-up review is determine whether the Oljeto chapter implemented its corrective action plan and resolved all the audit findings. We looked at a 6-month period ending March 31st, 2021. There were 2 audit issues, and for those 2 audit issues, the chapter developed 16 corrective actions. Of those 16 corrective actions, the chapter implemented 2, and 14 were not implemented. Therefore, the Office of the Auditor General is recommending that sanctions be imposed on the chapter and its officials. And just a little information, at the time of the review, there were 2 staff, the CSC and AMS, but I understand now that they only have an AMS on staff. So I'm going to give it over to Janelle. She'll go into explain some of the results of the 2 audit issues.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Janelle Benali from the Office of the Auditor General. As Karen mentioned, I was the lead auditor on this follow-up project. So I'm going to go ahead and read the results. Thank you for the time. For the audit issue 1, travel requests and expense reimbursements are not properly approved the controls of the travel activities remain weak. For the 6-month period review ending March 31st, 2021, there were no travel expenditures. To verify the implementation of the applicable corrective measures for this finding, we expanded our audit, identifying travel expenditures beginning April 2020. Accordingly, 9 travel expenditures totaling 1,168 were identified. There were no travel expenditures for the AMS and CSC. Of the 9 expenditures, 6 were travel reimbursements paid to volunteers during the COVID pandemic for delivering supplies to community members. To justify these reimbursements to the volunteers, the chapter applied the 5 management system travel policies and procedures for proper support, documentation, and approval. However, the following discrepancies were noted. 1 travel voucher file was missing. Bullet number 2, 8 travel authorizations were prepared and approved by the CSC and not the AMS. Bullet 3, 8 travel authorizations were incomplete and not approved prior to travel. Bullet number 4, 1 traveler was approved for travel reimbursement beyond the authorized travel date. Bullet 5, 1 travel reimbursement was missing a trip report. And then the last bullet, 5 travel reimbursements had expense reports, trip reports, and mileage reports that were prepared by the CSC on behalf of the traveler. The CSC also signed some of these documents for the traveler and approved the documents as the supervisor. Although the corrective measures agreed to by the chapter required segregation of duties, the current travel process showed the CSC had continued to perform all key procedures, including the preparation and approval of travel documents on behalf of the travelers. This practice does not facilitate proper accountability of chapters. Lastly, since there were no travel activities specifically, specifically for the CSC, and no travel advances issued during the audit scope for corrective actions could not be verified as implemented. However, considering the discrepancies noted with the sample of 9 travel expenditures, there is still a high risk that travel funds could be misused for unauthorized travel activities or travel expenses unrelated to chapter business. So that's the results of the first audit finding. And there's the second audit finding, which are controls over chapter property need improvement to ensure property is reliable, adequately identified, and well documented. Controls over property have not been strengthened despite a corrective action plan. The last known annual inventory was completed in 2019 by temporary employees rather than the AMS as noted in the corrective action plan. Further, there was no review of the inventory by the CSC to ensure the physical inventory was done correctly, and all property items were identified and accounted for. As a result, the property inventory was deemed incomplete as pertinent property information such as property numbers, acquisition dates, acquisition cost, and condition were missing. We selected 45 items to verify. They were affixed with proper documentation, identification tags, and of this number, 4 items were missing identification tags. In addition, the identification numbers found on 11 property items were not recorded on the property inventory. To verify, the corrective action plan required the CSC and the VP to verify all property items were tagged and the property inventory was complete. Based on our audit work, this was not done. Without sufficient controls, the risk remains that the chapter cannot fully account for its property, and any item stolen or destroyed that could result in a financial loss to the chapter would not be readily detected. And that's the end of the report. So based on the results of the follow-up, we are recommending sanctions of the chapter and officials. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sponsor, Nanja Daniels, Honorable Daniels, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. Yeah, Auditor, Senegi, I know for over a year we've been through the pandemic, and to this day we're still battling the COVID-19. So some of the findings within the pandemic, at the time, at the community of Oljeto, there was like 42 cases of COVID, positive cases. So I Oljeto was a hot spot on the Navajo Nation at one time. So so as a sponsor of this legislation, my agent I don't know if there's questions. We stand for questions, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Daniels, the agents from the Auditor General's office. Committee members, any questions, comments?
This is Jean Holiday.
Chairman, if the other committee members don't have questions, I have questions.
Okay, committee members, before we turn the floor over to Honorable Begay, although if not, Honorable
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, go ahead.
Thank you, Che. Thank you, brother. Sponsor Honorable Daniel Shana, Audible Oljeto chapter officials and Auditor General staff. Good morning, Nana, my brother, Honorable Begay. Thank you. This question pertains or goes to the Auditor General's office, and within the findings, or when the audit was conducted in the findings, were the current officials in place at that time, or the current staff? Were they in these positions that they're currently in, or were they all new officials? That's my question, Shana. Che, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Question to the Auditor's office. Can you respond?
Good afternoon. This is Karen Briscoe with the Office of the Auditor General. As for the officials, they might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're all new as of this year. And then for the staff, they had 2 staff during our follow-up review, a CSC and AMS, and those are the same from the initial audit. But as of right now, they no longer have a CSC, but they still have the AMS on staff. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, Honorable Freeland. Any other questions?
Yate. Thank you, Che.
Yate.
Go ahead, Honorable Freeland.
Che. Okay. I don't know who that was, but thank you, Che. Thank you, Auditor General's office. I pose this question because, like one of our previous legislation, it's always the new officials that have to pay for past officials misdoing, or I don't want to call it misuse or alleged misuse, but at some point we got to figure out a way to impose these sanctions on those officials, because these new officials come in and inherit the old officials' problems, and that's not fair. I don't think that's fair. But Edia, this is a comment, Che. Thank you.
This is Jean Holiday. Can I say something?
Hello. The committee members, I am going to allow them time to ask questions and make comments. Although it's up to the sponsor also. At this time, Honorable Freeland, he had questions. Responses were given. Although if he has no other questions, then let's go back to the committee. I know Honorable Begay is holding questions, but he's allowing others to go before him, and that's appreciated. Committee members. Let's go to Key Ellen Begay. Jananda, you have the floor.
Chairman, RDC member, Ojeto, western part of the Navajo Nation, delegate response unendengiche, Herman Daniel, the legislation hitani. So it is the situation that your kudo chapter but people need to understand that we have to sponsor a lot of these legislations to make correction. I don't know if the officials are on the line, and the ASC and the Division of Community Development. I want to pose several questions to them. This was done back in 2019. That's over almost 2 years ago. Since then, what specific effort or specific action that was done by the staff, that the local staff, CSC to AMS to again, that's another problem that we face. That Kodo Anish brother Yahadzi, Mr. Freeland, about imposing a sanction, an action by a previous administration. That is the case, Git Adida. But alongside, although there's no staffing or change of officials, but the continuity of the administration, what have they been doing? And I'll continue to pose this. Sanction. I mean, to me, in a way, this is minor, and this is an internal administrative matter, but yet we're penalizing the community. Because a sanction, what is a sanction? I mean, all it does is that, first of all, the first one, it withhold 10% of the general fundings to the chapter. Although 20% of the stipend of the chapter official. But an action by an administrator, maybe, I mean, again, this is the reason I can continue to say that we got to change the policy. But I've been asking the administration, the Division of Community Development, that what is proper. imposing a sanction. Just because, like some of us, I mean, we use card, and if there's if we're over the limit of whatever, that automatically to the next pay period it's withdraw. Why can't that be done to the staff automatically without penalizing the whole community? Unless, I mean, there should be, if the chapter is not able to develop the 5 management system, maybe then that there should be a template in place. I mean, if it's over a year that local chapters are having a hard problem developing the finance, the procurement, or whatever process in these 5 management system, then impose the a template that the ASC or the Division of Community Development implement. Okay, I mean, we're just going to impose this to the chapter. They kadit up in national lehala to hajo hato seta to pesona zo to hajo dit o seta. Jot go koshinda step behas an inelia that pohonet zanda insen shnal I mean, I'm leaning opposing the legislation, but not just because I want to keep the situation as is, but I'm opposing the legislation just because that I believe that we're penalizing individuals, the current administration, without proper correction, and then that there still needs to be a policy to be changed. And maybe the Auditor General could make a recommendation. John Hikodobe has ani il info nhinhansala. But what is proper? What is the recommendation? Hala John Hikodo, like for example, Hikodobe has ani did ado lifted automatically. This is the complication. I mean, the prime example is that we try to get some fundings down to the chapter level for a grazing official, but yet the Department of Ag and then the Division of Community Development pose a series of questions to say that this will complicate things. No. Recommend and then it's understandable if the situation is it gets to the level of a crime, white collar crimes or whatever they call it. Is very it's subject to some type of a sanction. Again, if the new chapter officials, it wasn't part of the situation, why are we will be withholding 20% of their stipend? I mean, I'm sure they've been working on it. If not, I mean, again, that's another question that I have for the maybe it gives a little bit of time to the grading. I mean, the chapter officials. What have they been doing on this particular issue? Mr. Daniel, identifying the agent. I mean, I like to earlier, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, that we've forward legislation regarding the Hard Rock chapter to indicate that RDC is not recommending sanction due to these situations, or that but then at the same time, the goal of the committee is that to get these chapters out of sanction. And again, that's where this template policy should come into play. I mean, if they can't develop them, I mean, what part and what action has the ASC and the division in helping these chapter? And then it comes to the question. I got a call the other day that if there's no CSC and AMS, who is really in charge? That's another thing. Administration, and I believe that there's a separations of the local officials interfering with the local administration, because there's a chapter out there has been without a CSC and AMS. On top of my request, my question, I'd like to request the ASC and the Division of Community Development, how many of the current chapters, all 110 chapters, don't have CSC or AMS or combined, and who is actually running these chapters? Property the administration. I've been getting email that any chapters equipment order they're being told that in order for the equipment to be released, you gotta have the insurance and then the property tag, the baka. If there's no CSC and AMS, who is actually doing that area? I mean, are the officials authorized to do that as an official? I mean, that will complicate a lot of things down the road, because you're an official, and then at the same time you're administering the chapter. I mean, they'll get themselves in a situation that administering the administration. Other official no if there's no staffing at the chapter level. Again, there's a situation like that I was told and I've talked to the delegate yesterday. But I told the community member, well, I need to inform the delegate first before I do anything, because if nothing is being done, then as a committee representing the chapter, I mean the agency, to RDC, then I can bring this up. Administration day to day. I mean, I think that AMS and the CSC, I mean the ASC, the Agency Support Center, the Division of Community Development, staff la point that administration on this. So I mean, again, automatically, why sanction knowing that there's no staff to work on it? I mean, why sanction knowing that there's new officials there? This is one thing that I believe that the Division of Community Development and the Auditor General really needs to get together and propose some type of a solution to resolve the situation. I mean, we can't just be sanctioning chapters after chapters just because of a minor document that needed to be turned in, and where they could easily be withdrawn or deducted from their paycheck. Template. So that's my first question, my long-winded question, but nonetheless, you know that I always try to explain myself, but otherwise I always lose explaining the situation with all this long talk. But I'll wait for the response and have a follow-up question. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Begay. Questions to the Office of Auditor General, the ASC, if they're on the call, lots of Jim, or the ASC from Kayenta. That's the area we're focused on with this particular legislation. Auditor General's office.
Vice Chair Walker, DCD and ASC are on the call. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to ECD, though ASC. I don't know which one wants to go first. The staff.
Yeah, Vice Chair Walker, and thank you to RDC for the comments and questions, and thank you to the sponsor, Delegate Herman Daniels. Yeah, and thank you for the legislation and discussing Aljeto chapter. Also, thank you to the Auditor General's office. ASC has been working closely with them and trying to address many of these questions or concerns. I just want to speak in general briefly, and then I'll turn the time over to Ms. Jim Martin and to Mr. Calvin Sosi, who can speak a little bit more in detail as to the process and the functions of what ASC and the SPPS serve at the chapter level. I do want to talk a little bit to Delegate Kealan Begay's comments, and forgive me for being bold here, but I was also at another chapter this morning, visiting the chapter as they reviewed their cap. I was also at another chapter where Delegate Kealan Begay asked myself to provide a written response and to participate with that cap review. And I was able to attend and visit and sit in on that cap review. I do want to say that when a chapter inherits previous concerns regarding the operation of the chapter, it can be difficult for them to resolve some of these issues. Sometimes records are missing. Sometimes information is lacking. And some of the new chapter officials come into these chapters and the transition was not apparent or transparent from the previous administration. And that already starts a complicated term for those chapter officials. Not to mention this particular year, many of the chapter officials started the term under a pandemic. And across the board, not just ASC, but throughout the Navajo Nation, with Navajo Nation employees, we are seeing a high or increased vacancies. And I do have the total number of vacancies here. It was also provided to RDC and to Mr. Kealan Begay on our budget hearing. But we across the board, we're seeing vacancies and employees retiring and taking their early retirement. And I wish that the OAG office had mentioned other factors outside of vacancies. It's one factor. It's not the only factor that contributes to these caps or to sanction. And that being said, the goal is not to get them out of sanction. The goal is to teach them about fiscal responsibility and fiscal management. That's the goal. The goal under Title 26 is to assist the chapters to excel. And when you look at the BIM and when you study the BIM, all of it is for compliance. And when you have just chapters under compliance, it makes it very difficult to excel at the local chapter level. That's the goal. The goal is to teach the Navajo people and the chapters to be fiscally responsible. So when we have these meetings, it's important that all chapter officials are present and participating. And there's no blame on one particular area. It's so complicated that you have to pay attention and you have to know what the chapter officials are held responsible for and can verbally say they're accountable for those actions, both previous and current. And then what the ASC or SPPS are doing and what the Auditor General is doing. It's so complicated that you have to pay attention in the whole process of what their monthly reports are, what their documentations need to be, what reporting that needs to happen. All of those happen, and all of those take place with both the SPPS and the Auditor General's office. Sometimes we have chapter officials who miss out on the opportunity, who are not there, who are not physically there, or leave it up to individuals to complete that. But the real question is what are we doing to teach the Navajo people and the chapters to be fiscally responsible for proper local governance? And what are we doing to address some of the previous behaviors from prior administration that leave their term and have the current administration inherit these things? And that's what some of these caps and timelines from the Auditor General present. They do these audits from 2018 or 2019, and then these new chapter officials inherit some of those findings and then try to repair or mend those or fix them under certain complications. The other question is what did the Auditor General's office look for during a pandemic? There was so many changes last year to every chapter throughout the Navajo Nation. What was it that the Auditor General's office, what were they actually looking for? Because no government entity functioned in a normal capacity last year. So those are deep questions that need to be asked rather than looking at vacancies, which we have been very transparent about and very forthcoming that these are things that not just ASC, but many divisions have been trying to address. So Vice Chair, that's a little bit of some frustration, I guess, to respond back to Delegate Kealan Begay, but I do have Mr. Martin and Mr. Calvin Sosu who can speak more to the details and to the collaboration with the Auditor General's office and to the portions that should be held accountable by the chapters, which I know the chapters have been working with ASC. There have been some staff that have retired and the new officials have inherited quite a bit. So if I can turn the time over to Mr. Martin and Mr. Sosi, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yellowman Hagoshin. Time for Ms. Jim Martin, Mr. Sosi. Jahi, your responses also.
This is Sunlatsa Jim Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate the questions from Kealan Begay and also thankful that we're able to speak on this legislation regarding Unttitled Chapter. I am the ASC Department Manager working with our ASC Kayenta office and our team there, providing technical assistance to Unttitled Chapter regarding their sanctions.